Hi, it's Nicole, and today I have a 6 card set featuring the new Happier Hour collection from Spellbinders. I set out with my goal to really stretch the die set on this project. These are so cute. They each have like a glassware style die and then a ton of coordinating matching dies, whether it is for the champagne one that I'm working with here, that is part of a special toast die set, and then of course has all of the like wedding icons. I really wanted to do a card with the drinkware and then a card with sort of all of the other pieces and omit that drinkware, just as a way to really kind of show how you can stretch die sets like this. And these are the die sets that I love working with. I like to just kind of sit and die cut a bunch of stuff at the same time so that when I get to that second card, the majority of the work is already done. And sometimes I have to cut a couple extra pieces or maybe swap out a color or something, but I don't know. I just feel like it's such a fun and like easy way to kind of get a second card done. So with this first card, I am going with a landscape orientation. I think at this point I had just seen a lot of portrait examples with the Happier Hour collection, and so I was like, you know what, let me try something different here. And I just kind of start building a scene in and around that champagne glass and kind of stretch over to the right edge. At this point, I don't know 100% what my sentiment is going to be. I don't have any of the coordinating ones that are available. They are very cute. I ended up just stash diving and going with some like more generalized celebration type sentiments, and they worked out fine. So again, I just kind of keep filling in until I kind of get down to those really small bits. And then I can kind of start thinking about what I'm going to do as far as the sentiment goes. And so I just kind of dug through my stash and I found a couple sets of sentiments that are for the glimmer system. And so I found one that I think it was like a general congratulations. I don't remember. And I don't know if I'll be able to read it in the video if it was like wedding specific. But a lot of times with sentiments, unless I have something that is part of the like matching set of like the suite of products, if I am stash diving, I kind of just try to keep it a little bit more open-ended, because a lot of times when I'm making a card, I don't know when this is going to be used, who I'm going to send it to. So sometimes I will try to keep it a little bit, like I said, more open-ended. I would like to be able to, pull it out if there's like a need for like a wedding card or an anniversary card, engagement, that type of thing. Now with the second card, I went ahead and did the same sentiment and I glimmered it onto the actual card base. I had to do it twice because the first time I did it upside down, but it's fine. I put the cardstock back in my storage, and when I go to do some die cutting, it'll be on the back. Nobody will ever know. I did go ahead and die cut 2 of the rings, and for the second one I just cut off the little like setting piece and covered that up with the hat. I really wanted it to kind of be like his and her rings. And then, like I said earlier, I still have a bunch of pieces that I die cut for that first card, and so that's what I'm reaching for first to kind of fill this in. And I'm basically just kind of making almost like a shelf above the sentiment and below the sentiment and kind of filling in. And I tried to keep the colors geared towards like wedding and anniversary. I think that this would be a really fun one to pull out and really do like a customized card for like when you know that somebody's getting married and you know their wedding colors, and you can kind of incorporate that into the design of your card. I think that would be so fun. So again, I'm just filling in. I did go through and I think I cut some more of like these medium size flowers from the chiffon color wheel cardstock. And I used a lot of the gold treasured cardstock for like the flower centers, the little banner pieces and stuff like that. And then I did mix the two greens, and then both cards I did these gold like half back pearl gem things from Pink Fresh Studio. I like to kind of come in and bring in just little pieces like this to fill in like the open areas of my little scenes here. I think this just adds a really nice finishing touch. And this one was a pretty quick process, I think, just because when I got the dies and I was kind of looking through them, the a special toast set, which is this wedding set, like I just kind of instantly knew what I wanted to do with it. And then I kind of just progressed through the die sets based on kind of what my mental idea was. So I'm going to move over to the Sip Sip Olay set. This one was so cute. I loved all the little like food icons and the little like drink pick and the lime and the avocado. This one was so cute. I think this is kind of what sparked my idea of doing a card with the drinkware and a card without the drinkware. And I said this so many times. I think for me, the part of the process that takes the longest is just picking colors. And I know some people are probably questioning my choice of this blue for the margarita glass, but all of the restaurants that we go to here that are like, you know, traditional Mexican restaurants, they always bring you these really pretty blue glass margaritas. And so I kind of wanted to play into that. And I really like how that kind of popped off of the like pink drink mixture that I used. I don't order strawberry margaritas when I go. I get the regular lime ones, but I had so many like green elements already cut out that I just felt like it needed to be a different color. So that was why I made my margarita a little strawberry flavored one. Because then, you know, my lime is going to be able to pop off of that, my little stir stick and all of that. And even though I've assembled the avocado, he is not going on this card, but pretty much I just, you know, did the same thing like I did with the first card. I like to sit and die cut a whole bunch of pieces when I know that I have at least 2 cards kind of mentally planned. And I'm doing the same type of concept where the first card is going to focus on the drinkware. And then the second card, I'm just going to come in with a whole bunch of those extra pieces. So having more than I need is fine. I did stash dive again for a sentiment, and I found these word dies where you can cut, I think it comes with like 10 or 12, and you can make all kinds of different like phrases. And so I just cut out happy for you. I felt like that was a generic enough phrase that you could use this for birthday, job promotion, like anything. So I just thought that this would go really well with my little margarita here. And a lot of times when I have a bunch of colors like this and I'm worried about card-based color, I just go neutral. I had pulled, you can kind of see it off on the side, I had pulled like a yellow, I had pulled the purple that I've used in the sentiment and on the hat. The problem was I had used them to die cut some of the pieces, and so I knew that they weren't going to pop very well. So that's when I was like, okay, let's just go neutral, because I know anything that I put on this neutral base is going to contrast and it's going to look like bright and fun. So I made a little scene up here in the top of my drink. Just kind of made sure I layered foam adhesive behind everything. And then with this one, I am coming in. These are more of like an iridescent flat back, like gemstone style. And they kind of reminded me of like the rock salt that they put on the rim of a margarita. So that was where that was where my brain was taking me for this one. And then the second one, I think this one ended up being probably my favorite of the 6. Here you can see, I thought I was going to use that yellow or the purple. At this point, I'm even like, I'm going to go ahead and fold the purple. I think I'm going to use the purple. But then I realized that I couldn't use a lot of the purple elements that I had already die cut, and so I switched it out for black, and the way that everything popped off this black was like perfection. I'm basically going to have kind of like a sprinkle scene is what I like to call them over on the right edge, and I'm just kind of coming in with the larger pieces and tucking in some of those smaller pieces here and there, popping up a lot of this with foam adhesive so that I can tuck other things behind it and not have to worry about trying to peel up something that's been glued down with liquid glue. And most of this was, you know, like I said, I cut a lot of stuff when I started that first card, so a lot of this is leftovers. I did go in and need to cut like more florals, more centers for the florals, and I think I cut a couple of these little like skulls. This was very much kind of going with that like Day of the Dead vibe, but overall I think it's just a really fun mix of elements and icons, because you've got some of those food elements and then you have some of like the more like floral skull kind of Day of the Dead elements, and then you kind of have like the sombrero and the drink pick, like just so many cute things going on. And I just start filling in. I try to kind of spread out the different colors so that overall it's almost kind of like a scrapbook pattern paper in a sense. So a lot of times when I'm like, okay, I want to put a flower here, I just try to pick a flower in a color that's not directly next to it, if that makes sense. And you can see some of my flowers don't have centers because I didn't have any cut at this point. And I think at this point I had used everything that I pre-cut. So as I'm making decisions, I'm cutting as I go. Got my little scene assembled, and I'm going to go ahead and cut off the overhang of everything, flip it over, kind of take a look at it, see if there's anything else that I want to add. At this point, again, back to my stash to try to find a sentiment, and I just went with a basic happy birthday, glimmered it with some gold foil on the same black cardstock, cut that out, and then I'm going to bring in those same little gems to sprinkle into my scene. And again, I love how this kind of fills in those open areas and just kind of brings in a little bit of added detail and added interest. If a die set has a die of like a generic shape that's really small, I like to die cut it and include that as well. This one, I think the smallest one was that little like half flower, so I needed something smaller than that. Okay, on to cards 5 and 6, which this is the Fountain Wishes set, so it's going to look like that milkshake ice cream kind of vintage drink vibe. This one, I had to pay attention to the image because I realized after I glued those first 2 layers together that all these other layers are actually inside the glass. So I just kind of peeled it up really carefully and put that silver treasured cardstock back down over everything. Kind of tucked some glue underneath the edges to make sure that that is going to stay down really well. And then you can see here, I didn't cut as much as I did with the first 2 cards because I was having a hard time picking colors. So what I ended up doing was kind of cutting on demand. So as I was making design decisions, I would figure out what did I need to cut, what color did I want to cut it, and I just kind of went over to my desk, cut it, came back. Now, I feel like picking a card-based color is sometimes the hardest, so I take my die cut pieces to my swatch sheet, which I have linked down below. I like this style swatch sheet where I can see everything at once and I can pick something up and set it on top and I can kind of see how it works with the colors. Spellbinders does have swatch products, but they're more of like flipping through a ring. I am somebody that very much, I just kind of need to see everything all at once. So I made that as a PDF. It is available to download, and I just used a circle punch to go ahead and punch little swatches of the color wheel cardstocks. For the base of this one, I did grab the waffle cone 3D embossing folder, which was from a Christmas release in, I want to say August. I know the cards are on my Instagram. I don't know if I ever got to edit the video, but that one was a ton of die cutting. I absolutely loved it. It is such a cute line. It's like cookie themed Christmas stuff. So there's like a train and a house and like a parachuting gingerbread cookie. It's so cute. But the embossing folder is that waffle cone texture, and I had cut those 2 little pieces of like waffle cookie, and so I thought that this really played into the theme that I was going with. And I kept my card base, the embossed panel, this kind of wonky shape panel, all that same color blue, so like very much a tone on tone but heavy on the texture. And then I'm just going to kind of start building this like little simple scene. You can see in the product image on my desk, there is a bird, a birthday hat, balloons, a straw. I didn't use those on this one. I very much kind of kept this one a little bit simpler, I would say. I just tucked 2 of those little cookies in, 2 of the candles, and I think a cherry I ended up adding. And then I feel like I always get to like that 90% mark of a card, and I realize that I need to stash die for sentiments. And I always feel like I have a lot of sentiments until I have like a very like cute themed card, and I'm like, oh man, I don't have any like sweet sounding things. So I just go generic, which is probably better in my instance because, like I said, I don't know who's going to end up with these. 6 months from now, I could need to get a card, and I will probably thank myself that the sentiment is a little bit more basic. So I grabbed this other set that I have of some glimmer sentiments, and I really like these. And I just kind of do that little hinge method where you take some tape it down to, in this instance, I just had a scrap of that alabaster. I can't believe I've actually gone through pretty much an entire pack of the alabaster. So I need to order another one. I'm down to literally scraps, and I think I have like 1 card base worth. But anyways, I foiled that with some silver foil, which the silver and the gold foil that I have is just whatever came with the glimmer system. And I feel like it's like endless. However much foil they have on those rolls, at first you look at it and you think, oh, I'm going to run through this really quickly. There's so much foil on there, especially when you're using it in like small doses like this. So I'm going to straddle the sentiment kind of across the skinny part of the little ice cream cup here. Go ahead and place my cherry on top. And then I did go ahead and tuck some foam underneath the stem just because I felt like the stem was going to come off. Now I'm going to move on to card number 6, but the companion card to the Fountain Wishes set. And by the time I got to this card, I had no plan. So this one is not my favorite, but sometimes I like to just kind of play and see where it takes me. I cut some rectangles out of the yellow, the pink, the blue, and the mint that I had been cutting stuff from. And then again, I am ignoring the drinkware and focusing on all the extra elements in the die set. I did go ahead and bring in the Classic Mouse like alphabet and numbers. That was a collab between Spellbinders and Simple Stories. And I cut out HB, the number 2, and U. So happy birthday to you. Put one of them in each little quadrant here. And then I'm going to like loosely decorate each quadrant into a scene, but then at the same time, I'm going to have like the balloons are going to kind of go across the whole card so that everything sort of touches and feels kind of cohesive. And then this was another one where I didn't make any color choices and die cut anything until I was sitting down to work on it. And so I know if I'm working on like the little blue area that none of the details that I'm going to choose I want to cut with blue because it's not going to show up. So I just kind of decided in the moment what was going to go where, what color did it need to be. And then I did bring in a white like paint pen, gel pen, I'm not sure which one it is, and just kind of add a little bit of detail on like the candle flames, the side of the cherry, the balloons, which the balloons actually have like an indent of where like a reflection would be. So I just kind of filled those in. And yeah, so just kind of tucked like the ice cream, the waffle cones, tucked things here and there. And then at this point, I was trying to decide if I wanted to add those extra like gems and details to either one of these. And by the time I got done with both of them, I was like, yeah, I kind of feel like the other 4 have them. And with this kind of being like a 6 card set, I wanted to have that repeating element. So I did silver, like halfback pearl things. These are also from Pink Fresh Studio. Most of these I've gotten from doing like class events. And I feel like they last a really long time. Like I pull them out a lot, I use them, and yet the bags still have a ton left in them. So it's kind of a good value in my opinion. So I just kind of go through and sprinkle them here and there. I think I just kind of made sure I had like 3 little areas on each of the quadrants. And to my brain and to my eye, that's kind of like confetti. Like with my little happy birthday party scene here, it kind of reads as confetti to me. So, and then at that point, I just kind of had to wait for things to dry so that I could go ahead and flip my card over and cut off the overhang. And then that completes all 6 cards. Very much die heavy, little bit of glimmering, little bit of embossing, but pretty much die cut focused. I absolutely love that I challenged myself to kind of omit the drinkware and do a second card, kind of just to show another example of kind of how to stretch your dies. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave me a comment down below, like the video, and subscribe if you have not, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.